It's been 2 weeks, folks. It's been 2 weeks since we have been back here on the podcast, but today marks the end of that. It is, what is the date today? February 21st. It is Monday. It is President's Day. I believe it's President's Day, right? Isn't it President's Day today? I'm pretty sure it is. There it is. Today's President's Day. I wanted to make sure I didn't get the holiday wrong, so some of you guys might be off today. If you are, hopefully you're enjoying your time off and everything like that as well. But yeah, we haven't been back. It's been probably 2.5 weeks since we've been back on the podcast here and put out some content. I think, well, not even think. I mean, I know a lot of that is either due to one, just work scheduling over the last couple weeks. 2, I kind of wanted to take a little bit of a break from it. 3, things have been kind of dry in the sports world, and mix all that together. That's why I haven't really been back here for a couple weeks. But it feels good to sit here, be back in front of the microphone, kind of talk about whatever it is I want to talk about with you guys. But anyway, episode 53 of In Heintz. And this isn't going to be a long episode, folks. This really isn't. This is probably going to be about a 15 to 20 minute episode. I kind of just really want to talk about one thing really in particular that kind of broke the news Saturday. And I believe it was Saturday. And so that's really kind of what this show is going to be really about. Now, what I want to do with the next show, which is most likely going to be tomorrow, is I want to just kind of talk about some things coming out of the All-Star weekend. All-Star weekend was a disaster. And I kind of want to talk about some things as well. Post-trade deadline, I did make a video going into the trade deadline, talking about things that could happen, things like that. You guys probably don't really care to watch it now, considering we all know what happened, but if you want to listen to some of my thoughts on things happening, you guys can give a look at that video that is on the channel. But I was thinking we'll kind of do today's video based off of some news I want to talk about that came out Saturday, and then I'm thinking tomorrow, early this week, whenever we get it out there, that we will do, or that I'll do, just really a video based out of things coming out of the NBA All-Star Weekend, All-Star break, all that kind of jazz. But anyway, today, I'm strictly going to talk about the Steelers hiring Brian Flores as a linebackers coach, defensive assistant, whatever title you want to put on it. So if you're not a Steeler fan, you might not want to listen to this. Maybe you will, but regardless, it's appreciated, each and every one of you who tune into my videos and all those kind of things. It always means a lot. I'm just trying to continue to grow it week by week as best as I can. Obviously, as this isn't a full-time thing, I can really only do what I can to get content out there. But anyway, news broke Saturday, and I very first saw this on Facebook, and sometimes when you scroll through Facebook, you'll just see, I don't know, if you follow, like, if you're a fan, whatever sports teams you're a fan of, based off of your likes and what you follow on Facebook, sometimes they'll kind of put things out there in terms of maybe fan pages to follow and stuff. So I was scrolling through Facebook, and I saw a picture of Brian Flores with the Steelers logo, pretty much the picture that the Steelers posted on their social media when they hired him. And as I was scrolling through it, I thought it was fake, saying like linebackers coach, defensive assistant, whatever. I thought it was just one of those fake things that that you can kind of see some people Photoshop and stuff like that. And then I look at who posted it, and it was the Pittsburgh. I'm like, what? So it was the actual Steelers Facebook page that posted. I'm like, no way. So I go on Twitter, where Twitter's the number one thing I'm on more than anything, because I always get my news from there. I interact with so many more things on there than other social media. I think that's where I find, in terms of me on social media, that's where I find myself at way more than any of the others. And so I'm scrolling through Twitter, and I'm just seeing all this stuff about Brian Flores Steelers. I'm like, holy crap. And so to me, it was definitely kind of a shock to me. Not a shock in the sense that the Steelers would hire him, but a shock of that it actually happened. I was not expecting that. I was kind of expecting with this whole Brian Flores situation that he might not coach again. He might not get an opportunity. Maybe he just might not coach this year. And maybe next year find somewhere. And if for anyone that's unaware of the Brian Flores situation, pretty much he has lawsuits going against the NFL, with 3 teams involved, with the Giants, Miami, and I'm trying to think of the other team. I don't know if it's Buffalo. I don't think it's Buffalo. Giants, Miami, and there's another team involved. I can't remember it. But anyway, it's pretty much one that the Miami Dolphins owner, Stephen Ross, offered him X amount of money to lose games back in 2019. I don't know if Brian Flores accepted that money. I don't think he did. Who knows? But that's an ongoing process. And then also, in terms of those lawsuits going on, is the NFL has had this thing called the Rooney Rule set in place for quite a while now. I believe, I don't remember the exact year it was set in stone, but it's been around for a really long time. And pretty much it's giving people who are of minority opportunity to interview for different coaching positions, head coaching positions. And so as we've kind of seen this offseason, which has kind of got a lot of people talking, there were about 7 NFL teams that needed head coaching spots. And there's several coordinators and assistants out there who are of color, and none of them really got those jobs. And so now Lovie Smith did get promoted as the Texans head coach, but Dave Culley got fired, which got a lot of backlash. And then I'm trying to think if there was anybody else I'm missing here that got a head coach job. Anyway, most of really the teams that need another head coach did not hire somebody of color. And it was really at a point where Mike Tomlin was the only black head coach in the NFL. And so that's kind of why the Rooney Rule is set in place in terms of those kind of things. And so that was really a big kind of storyline going on for, I mean, still even now, I guess. But anyway, Brian Flores really throughout the process of his hiring stuff. It might have been Denver. I don't know. Anyway, he came out saying when he interviewed for Denver back in, what year was it, 2019 or so, that John Elway and the GM and whoever was in the meeting and stuff like that just did not take the interview seriously and did not consider him serious, and they were wasted and all that stuff during the interview process. I don't know. There's two sides to every story. But anyway, these things against the NFL is, again, like violation of the Rooney Rule, right? These things with Brian Flores in terms of racism involved. These teams not doing their due diligence in terms of the interview process, the hiring process that is involved. And you look at some of these coaches that got hired, and it's like, dude, I mean, obviously Brian Flores, I think, is a much more qualified and much more better coach than some of these guys getting hired. And that's kind of really the main lawsuit that's involved, and that's still ongoing. But when the Steelers hired Brian Flores, I mean, I was shocked. Like I said, not because of the Steelers doing that. The Steelers hiring Brian Flores is a testament of itself. And if it's something that you disagree with, you're wrong on this. I mean, this isn't even an opinion, Nate. This isn't even an opinion. The Steelers, we all know, are easily one of the greatest franchises in all of sports ever. We know this. The Steelers are a very structured organization. There's a reason why they obtain success. There's a reason why they never rebuild, really, their team. If anything, there's just kind of transitions where they just kind of retool, and they don't just break everything down like we see a lot of other franchises do in sports and stuff like that. They go a certain way. They know how to develop. They know how to bring guys in. They're structured. It's plain and simple. And so I'm not surprised one bit that they brought in Brian Flores because, yes, the Rooney Rule thing was obviously proposed by the Rooneys. And the Rooneys kind of not just talking the talk, but walking the walk in that sense of bringing Brian Flores in, who has multiple lawsuits going on with the NFL. and bringing him in through all this process, knowing that he's a very good coach, he's got a great mind, however they view of what he can bring to the table and all those things like that. And so they stick to their end. They stick to their end, man. And so just that alone is a testament in terms of the class, the structure, why they're such a beloved franchise and respected by so many peers. And this Brian Flores signing, I don't know if, I don't really know how much perspective people put into this. But with them signing him and going out of their way, even with these lawsuits and stuff going on, still wanting him on staff. And again, sticking to their end as in terms of the Rooney Rule, it being in effect, abiding by that. This, I mean, when this came out, I mean, there were players across the league reacting to this. Steeler players just singing the praises of the organization because they're very well respected. Because they are a first-class organization, and anyone who's played for the Steelers will tell you that. So, I think with them bringing in Flores, and I think more people will agree with me than not, when it comes to free agency, when it comes to players looking for another place to play, I think the Steelers, I mean, as desirable as they are anyway, I think with this whole situation, players seeing in terms of the Steelers not just talking whatever, but sticking really to their guns in terms of, hey, like we abide by what we have, by our rule that we've implemented and have had implemented in the NFL for years. And I think when players, and especially with the reaction that it got as well, I mean, there's a lot of players that like Brian Flores anyway, but players see the respect, they see the class, they see all those things throughout this process. I honestly think that this makes the Steelers even more a desirable place to play for key free agents than even more so. Because players are seeing this. Players are seeing what they did. They're seeing this team is, I don't know how I want to word it. But yes, I mean, like I said, the class, very structured, all those kind of things. But they do what's right. You know, they have respect. They have, I mean, whatever you want to put it, because a lot of players in the NFL, majority of the NFL is black players. It's just how the sport is. And when you look at across the NFL, and especially when this Brian Flores stuff started going on, I mean, there were a lot of players reacting to that. And as well in terms of lack of opportunity for some of these black coaches and stuff like that. And I just think when players and guys who are going to be key free agents, they see what the Steelers did, giving Flores the opportunity, even though Flores isn't a head coach right now, but still bringing him in on staff, wanting him on staff, even through this process. They stick to what they say. They stick to what they preach. You know what I mean? And Mike Tomlin's already a very respectable coach. A lot of players love playing for him. I haven't heard one player that played for Mike Tomlin ever say a bad thing about him. There's a reason why players love playing for him. There's a reason why people always respect the organization, but I just think with this situation, this is even more of a desirable spot for a lot of players because they look at this whole thing going on and what the Steelers did. You see what I'm saying? So, I think, I don't know why my leg's bleeding. So, this signing itself is, I think, one of the best moves the Steelers have done in quite a long time. I don't know how long Brian Flores is going to be here. But with all this stuff going on, I think a lot of people thought Flores was going to get blackballed from the NFL. Kind of like a Colin Kaepernick situation, I guess. That he wasn't really going to get those opportunities. And you look at now, and That's not going to be the case because, like I said, I don't know how long he's going to be here for. I don't necessarily know all the ins and outs in terms of what he's going to do. So, yes, he's going to be a lot of hands-on with the linebacker group. But I can tell you this. With them bringing him in, he's not just in to just be here. He's not just here to coach linebackers. He's here to coach. He's going to have, even though Mike Tomlin's been calling the defense for years, Brian Flores is going to be very influential. He's going to be in those rooms, in those meetings. He's going to bring a lot of different ideas. It's going to be a fresh atmosphere, fresh environment, I feel like, in terms of the defense, because the defense really disappointed last season. They have a lot of talent there. The Steelers' defense was the best defense 2019. They were top 3 or 5, whatever, in 2020. Last year, they took a major step back. They were terrible at stopping the run. They didn't really get nearly as many turnovers as they got the last 2 years. Yes, they led the league in sacks, when don't they? But they did take a big step back. And bringing a guy like him in, who's defensive guru, great mind for the defense, very good at working with front seven. I mean, you can look at his resume, even when he was back with New England, and you look at a lot of guys that flourished under him in terms of linebackers and things like that. And what he did with Miami as a head coach, I still don't really understand why they fired him to this day. I don't understand that at all. But this is a huge win for the Steelers because they needed somebody like this in that locker room. They needed somebody like this on staff, and they have it. Now, I don't know where this is going to go for him after this. I don't know. I don't know if he'll be promoted somewhat in the Steelers organization. I'm sure probably throughout this stuff and with him being with the Steelers stuff, I'm sure probably another head coaching opportunity will probably come up in the future. But regardless, this is a home run hire. This is easily the best coaching hire they've had since bringing in Mike Munchak for the offensive line. And I think he's going to have a very similar impact that Mike Munchak had. Obviously, different roles, positions, stuff like that. But Flores is going to be a big voice for this defense. He's going to be, like I said, he's going to be much more than just coaching linebackers. 100%. I mean, hearing what Mike Tomlin had to say about the guy, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you at that point. So, home run hire. I haven't seen one person who thought this was a bad hire. It was absolutely a great hire on all accounts. Sure, you have these lawsuit stuff still going on, but that's his personal business with the NFL. That's not going to affect anything. And so, like I said, I'm not surprised that the Steelers brought him in. I was just kind of shocked that it actually happened. But good for him. And this is something, too. Brian Flores could have easily just not taken anything and viewed himself as just, I'm worthy of head coach and stuff like that. But he didn't do that. He with all this stuff going on, he still wanted to coach. He still wanted to be a part of something. And here he is with the Steelers, very respected organization, all-around classy organization. And he's going to be a big part of what they're going to do in the defensive mold. So I think I'm very excited about it. I'm very excited to see what direction they're going to go with the defense this year. And really excited to see guys like a Devin Bush. Devin Bush had a really nice rookie season. He was having a good second year until he blew out his knee. Last year, he had a terrible season. So maybe bring in a guy like Brian Flores as well, who has helped flourish a lot of linebackers in this league. That might just be what Devin Bush needs, is a guy like that. And hopefully that's the case. And Flores is going to have a guy like TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith. He's going to have some of the other young inside linebackers to work with. I think the Steelers will probably bring in another inside linebacker. But this is, it's something I just kind of wanted to talk about because it was definitely big news when it happened. And who knows what the future will hold for him. I think with him being a coach here for the Steelers, stuff like that, it will open doors down the line of getting another opportunity and things like that. But I think it's good on Flores of just not sitting out with these lawsuits going on, just sitting out till a team calls you for head coach. You know, he's way overqualified to be labeled as a linebackers coach and a defensive assistant, stuff like that. But still, wanting to stay involved in football, in the league, and coach guys, good on him. He didn't just sit out and wait until another head coaching opportunity came, which might not have possibly done. I think with him doing this is going to be another leeway for him down the line of whether, I mean, like I said, who ultimately knows? But I think this will be another leeway for him, an opening in line for him sometime in the future for getting another opportunity as a head coach. So I'm very excited to see what he's going to do. I'm very excited, as I think all Steeler fans are, and he's just going to bring such a fresh atmosphere, I think, for this defense that the defense probably, hasn't really had. And like I said, I think this is just something the Steelers needed, especially with kind of how the last few years have gone. This is the type of hire they needed, dude. This is the type of hire they needed. This is the type of home run hire that so many fans have been asking for, because the Steelers, a lot of times, whether it's with coordinators, other kind of assistant jobs and stuff like that, a lot of times they hire from within their organization. Now, Terrell Austin, who's their defensive coordinator, we know he's not just somebody that grew within the organization. He's been around the league for years and years. He's done a really good job with the Steelers secondary the last few years. And so he was the one that got promoted to defensive coordinator. But having a guy like Terrell Austin, who's very good with hands-on with that secondary, and you have a guy like Flores, who's very certified and very good at developing a front seven, linebackers, things like that, working with those young guys as well, is a recipe for success in my eyes. But this is the type of hire fans have been wanting, especially with Matt Canada sticking around, and the Steelers they don't really go out of their way to go bring in a big name to come on staff. And I can't remember really the last time they did that. And so Brian Flores is that, and I'm very excited for it. And so I don't know. I mean, there's some names out there that have played under Brian Flores that are free agents, man, that might look at this situation and be like, that's where I want to go. I think just a lot of people on the market are looking at this whole situation, what the Steelers have done, what they're doing, and things like that, and just view it as like, that's what I want to be a part of. Even more so than how they've, how players have perceived them anyway. But it's still, the offseason isn't really fully going. There's really not too much really NFL news necessarily. Free agency doesn't start till March 16th, but guys can start negotiating and committing to teams March 14th, but teams can't start signing until that free agency window officially hits. So we still have a few weeks up until then. There's still things going on. I mean, that get speculated about all the time with Aaron, Russell, Deshaun, Washington, obviously the Commanders now, that they might go out and make a move for a quarterback. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of, I feel like this offseason, I think what's going to make this offseason very intriguing is just because, not just for the Steelers, just the NFL in general, because there's a lot of teams that need a quarterback right now. But, and we see that often, where there's a handful of teams that need one. But with the retirements of Tom Brady, of Big Ben, the uncertainty of Aaron, multiple quarterbacks possibly being on the move, I think just that itself sets up for a very fun, interesting offseason. And maybe what certain teams are going to do. I mean, you look at the Devontae Adams situation, right? There's a handful of very intriguing names on the market, but I think just the quarterback carousel alone is going to make for a very fun offseason. And really what's going to happen in those type of things, because there are going to be moves that are made. Denver's a team I can easily see selling the house for a quarterback. Texans want to move Deshaun Watson, but who knows when that's going to happen. Aaron, we don't know what his future is. Russell Wilson, he hasn't come out and said he wants out, but he wants to just look at options. So it's definitely possible he's on the move. Who knows? Derek Carr, what's going to happen with him? Kirk Cousins. Jalen Hurts. I mean, if the Eagles, I mean, they've been linked to Deshaun Watson, to Russell Wilson, to Jimmy G. I don't freaking know what's going to happen there. Jimmy Garoppolo itself. Tom Brady, does he come back? Like, who knows? There's so many things, and that alone is going to make it very interesting. But as well with some teams who are bound to lose some key guys simply because of their cap situation. You look at Green Bay. What's going to happen there? I don't know. What's going to happen with some guys that need extensions? There's a lot of story that's going to be going in the offseason. I'm very excited to talk about it on here. But I am going to wrap it up here, guys. Episode 53. I just wanted to come on here. I wanted to talk about the Brian Flores situation. There's really nothing in terms of really Steeler talk to delve into right now. There's nothing going on. I mean, I could always come on here and think of video, stuff like that, but I've done things like that too, so I kind of want to have a balance of things. But expect tomorrow or sometime early this week, I'm going to come on here and just talk about things coming out of NBA All-Star Weekend, the trade deadline, how teams are kind of looking. There's some news coming out with Chris Paul. There's some news with James Harden. There's multiple things to talk about. So I'm going to come on here. It's going to just kind of be strictly NBA, which I don't really think I've really done lately. But we're going to have March Madness coming up, which we'll be getting into as well next month. So there's going to be quite a bit of things to talk about with the NFL offseason. I'd say probably, I'm trying to think, it's February 21st right now. I want to say in terms of the NFL offseason get going, in terms of rumors, getting more clarity on certain things, I could definitely see early March, probably within the next week and a half of getting, seeing those things kind of happen. NBA talk going in the second half of the season. Well, not really even second half, a little bit less than second half. There's 7 weeks left of the season. MLB's still a disaster with the lockout. They're supposed to be meeting every day up until March 5th or so. They had to push back the spring training situation and to March 5th is the latest day that they can get that going. It's a freaking joke. So players versus owners, what do you expect? Money, what do you expect? Blah, blah, blah. So there's that. NHL trade deadline's officially a month away. But tomorrow, or like I said, early this week, keep an eye out because we will be talking strictly NBA. But hit that like and subscribe, guys, for this video if you haven't, because it just kind of helps push the video out. I feel like YouTube's just not really pushing my videos. And so hopefully that can get going. I know I got to kind of keep putting content on there, but sometimes you can only do what you can do. But week by week, that's kind of really, it's kind of really my mindset. Week at a time, just trying to grow it. So, I mean, we haven't even been on here for a year. So that's all we can do. I really appreciate each and every one of you who take your time out of the day to tune into the show and listen to everything. And that's just what we're trying to do. Keep growing it, reach audiences, interact with everybody. There's a lot of things I'd love to be able to get to the point with this channel, having people on the show, talking with other fans. That'd be great. That'd be a great time. So that's what I'm trying to do and everything like that. But hopefully you guys have a good President's Day. If you guys are off, enjoy your day. Have a good rest of your week, everybody. Like I said, look for tomorrow, Wednesday, for content. Probably tomorrow. But follow me on Facebook, in Heintz site, Twitter, Nate_Heintz, Instagram, Nathan_Heintz, to keep up with things of the channel in terms of when I post, all that kind of stuff. If you guys want to interact with me, I always love interacting with people, having some good conversation on sports and stuff. So I always appreciate the support and everything. But we're going to get out of here. Like I said, not a long show. We're going to hit in about 28, 29 minutes here. So usually longer than I expect, but that's kind of what happens when you're able to talk and kind of ramble on. So, but thank you guys so much, and we will see you most likely tomorrow for some NBA talk. All right, guys, take care.